Okay.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather. Sally
She
sells...
sells seashells by the
I
seashore.
thought it was Sally sells seashells by the seashore. We're going to add
When
it to
I was in theater school, it was she sells seashells by the seashore.
We're going to add it to the book of things that were just a little different in Australia.
Australian theater. It's a little bit more out there.
Yeah, it's like regular theater with big spiders. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of The Actor's Agenda.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I am Mike Manning, and this is...
Clementine Heath.
Say it with pride. What's your name?
Clementine.
What's your name, you little orange?
I've been thinking about dropping my last name.
Just Clementine?
Yeah.
Just like Cher or Beyonce?
Madonna. Zendaya, yeah. Clementine.
Clementine.
There's only one of me. I've always struggled with my name a little bit, and it's just because it's just so long. And then the last bit just sort of tapers off. And I'm like, just get Clementine.
I'm learning something about you. So today we are... What happened? We just got back from Memorial Day, and I was in Colorado with La Familia. My nieces are getting to the age now where one of them's 7, and she actually is remembering things. Yeah, she's a little person. We have conversations, and then she's recalling my last visit. So she's like, Mike, you remember when we did this last time, and we read this book, and we did this thing, and remember this little gift you gave me? Here it is. And
cute.
It is cute. But now I have no voice. So if I'm a little raspy today, that's why.
I thought it was from all your rapping.
My rapping? Hey, little mama. No, I'm not going to. Nah, not here. Not the time or the place. So... This week, we are speaking with a friend of mine, Leslie Lluvet.
She's French?
She's French. She's French. She was born in Cuba. I mean, she says the T, but I guess you could say Lluvet.
Well, it's her name, so let's go with how she says it.
Why names are becoming a thing.
Oh, yeah, that's her thing.
Names.
Well, you used to be Mike C. Manning, and you dropped the C.
I did. I killed the C. It just didn't feel like me. And when I would go up to events or when I would have to check in for something and I said it quickly, it would sound like I was saying Mike C. And they're like, Mike C. Which now in hindsight, I'm like, that's kind of a cool name. But
Mike C.
Having the Mike C. When I tried to join SAG, there was already a Mike Manning. And so I joined SAG. I was the Mike C. Manning. And then every year I would call SAG and be like, hey, is the name open? Is the name open? And I even had my manager and friends that were casting directors. And I went on IMDb trying to find this other Mike Manning. Because I was ready to bribe somebody to change their name. And finally I called SAG and they're like, there is no longer a Mike Manning.
Oh, that's cool.
So wherever you are,
thank you.
on this earth or beyond, wherever the Mike Manning is or was, I thank you for relinquishing your name.
Yeah.
Well, Leslie, the cool thing about Leslie is that I met her years and years ago through friends, and then I recently ran into her again on set. I was visiting my friend Andrew Caldwell, who I did Cloud9 with. He and his wife had a kid, so I dropped off baby supplies that I had from another friend. Don't ask me how. I don't remember where they came from, but I had a box of like baby things. So I was like, hey, I never ended up going to this baby shower, giving them to this person. I'm going to drop them off on set. So I went to visit Andrew on set to give him baby stuff. And then Leslie was there. And then we were like, hey, let's grab lunch. And we grabbed lunch, and now she's my podcast guest. And so I guess the point of all that is that you never know what saying yes to one opportunity will lead to. I think sometimes we feel stagnant and we're like, okay, we're in this acting class and we're doing this audition and we're kind of feeling like we're that hamster running on the wheel. We're not really going anywhere. But whether you go an inch or a mile, you're still moving in the right direction. And so I would encourage anybody listening to just keep going, just keep saying yes to things. You never know what something will lead to until you do it and find out. You were mentioning a movie that you saw that you liked.
I saw a film
What film? What film?
It is called Boy Kills World, starring Bill Skarsgård, and it is so good. And I was really disappointed to see online that it just didn't get solid reviews and the right kind of responses from reviewers, which, made me think about how you should watch movies because you are interested and curious and decide for yourself. This film is so good. It is martial arts. It is old school kung fu. It is like an 80s Street Fighter video game. It is John Woo, Jackie Chan, all of the martial arts that honestly we're seeing in a lot of movies today where I think they're trying to hit that mark and they actually kind of miss it.
Mm.
And this one is all of it and more. And it's kind of wrapped up in a Hunger Games sort of thing. It
Okay.
is so good.
Okay.
And like, I'm really looking forward to watching it with you guys. Just to have
I've
your
heard good
reaction
things about
to it.
It's interesting that the reviews are negative, and I wonder where that comes from.
I don't think they're negative. I just think they don't get it.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, it's this, but like,
But isn't that the
they're
beauty of
missing
film?
the point.
Isn't
They're
that the
missing
beauty
it.
of film that the Fall Guy that just came out with Ryan Gosling? I'm hearing mixed things. I have friends that I actually really respect their opinions. They're saying, "Oh, I went to the theater and it was pure fun, pure adrenaline, pure jokes,
cute.
pure camp, pure escapism, and I loved it." And I have other people that are like
Like me that say,
yeah,
it
like
was
you
cute.
and others that I also respect your opinions, and you're like, "Hey, this it was too goofy and I couldn't connect to the characters and it wasn't for me." And I feel like that's the beauty of film is that
But I was
everybody has a different
very
opinion.
prepared when I saw that film because I've got friends that are all stuntmen. But it was a different. It was action. It was to kind of show the fun behind the scenes of action. Like I've had to stunt double when I did Fool's Gold. I had this woman have to take a beating falling out of a speedboat going at 60 knots. Her the whole side of her body was like black and blue. But yeah, I went to see The Fall Guy. I went to support because this part of the industry is so underappreciated. It just really is. But when I saw Boy Kills World, the action sequences, the choreography behind it was so next level. It wasn't just like guys jumping in fast cars and things like being blown up. Like the martial arts side of it, I think, is where that's what impressed me the most because it was going back to old school classic kung fu, Kill Bill kind
But
of
couldn't
shit.
you say the same thing about The Fall Guy it wasn't about the characters, it was a love letter to stuntmen and it was just about the stunts.
That's why I just prefaced by saying, like I understood what I was going to see for The Fall Guy, but I didn't walk away with the feeling of what seeing Boy Kills World gave me.
You just reminded me of something that I think is perfect for this week and perfect for our guest. And a good lesson for filmmakers in general is when you make your movie, your job's not done. We were talking about Monkey Man last week or
Monkey
the
Man
week
was so
before.
good.
And
Dev
Dev
Patel,
Patel went out there and he marketed the shit out of it so that people would give his film a chance. When you make your movie, your job is not done. You make your movie, you deliver the best movie possible, and then you have to work your ass off to make sure that your movie gets out there to the audience that is going to appreciate it. Unless you have a studio dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into a marketing campaign, it is your job to go out there and to really push your film.
It's actually a good film either,
Exactly. And I think Leslie talks about that. Leslie talks about having her family's story coming to the United States from Cuba turned into a short film, 90 Miles. And then now she's making it to a feature film. One thing I respect about her is that she's working her ass off to make this film happen. And this film would not happen without her doing that. And so I think that anybody listening, any filmmakers, whether you're at the studio level and you're Dev Patel and you've...
well, he had a modest budget for
that's
the
what I'm saying.
scope
But
of what that film was.
He is somebody that has a huge fan base and has a ton of respect in the industry. He still had to work his ass off.
I just think what he's done with the brand of this character and what he's created is so beautiful. I hope there's more. I hope we get like Monkey Man 2.
Same.
Monkey Man 3.
Man, Monkeyer.
No.
Nah, we'll workshop that.
Yeah.
Okay, so without further ado, this is my interview with Leslie Lluvet.
Bye.
Bye.
It's the actor's agenda. Na, 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 na. It's the actor's agenda.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Actor's Agenda. My name is Mike Manning, and my special guest today is Leslie Lluvet. Leslie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I had to check the pronunciation on that because it's spelled Lluvet.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say Lluvet, but it's Lluvet.
Most of my life has been Lluvet. Lluvet.
Oh, love it.
Love
I mean,
it.
it sounds like a superhero name. My name's Leslie Lluvet.
Or a porn star name,
Oh, actually, yeah. That's,
Leslie Lluvet.
True. Okay.
So then I decided, no, hold on, I have to start correcting people because it sounds a little bit cringy.
Lluvet, yeah.
So it's definitely Lluvet, and it's just been following me my whole entire life.
So that's
and I'm like,
Lluvet sounds French. Is that French?
it's French. Yeah, it's French. I was telling you earlier, I did a DNA test, and I'm predominantly European, 80% actually.
Okay. But
Yeah.
you grew up in Cuba.
I was born in Cuba,
Okay.
and then in 1994, my mom, my dad, they kind of set up this whole trip. We fled. We had a boat. My dad set it up, and it took about 4 years to actually execute the trip on
wow.
their behalf. They were
Wow.
really young too. And then we went to Miami. We landed in Key West, and my entire life up until 21, 22 was in Florida.
Oh wow, wow. Well, up until you were 21, 22.
And then I
Okay.
came here.
Yeah, great. Okay.
I've been here for like 13 years.
13 years, that was good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we've been here about the same. Was LA what you expected when you moved here?
Well, when I moved to LA, I was a little naive.
Okay.
I came here for college.
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to go to college and then I was going to go back home. And it didn't end up that way.
Was your college goals? Were your college goals focused on entertainment, or were
I went to film school.
Film school,
I went to
great.
film school. I did 4 years of film school, and somehow I went to acting school because I thought as a filmmaker I really needed to know both sides of the production. It's just not behind the camera, but in front of the camera. I always admire Quentin Tarantino, and I have a whole list. Hitchcock, a lot of the 50s, 60s filmmakers. And I realized people like Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, they did both.
yeah.
Especially Quentin Tarantino. I'm such a fan of Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Huge fan. And he's an actor.
His style is just fantastic, and his actor. Yeah. Because when I was younger, I would watch Reservoir Dogs, and I would watch the one Salma Hayek, Vampires.
Oh yeah, Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
And I would watch them, and I'm like, oh, this is a great Tarantino film. Only later in life did I realize that Tarantino was in his films.
He was in it.
And
yeah.
And so that was interesting. And you're not the first filmmaker to tell me that you wanted to you went to film school, but you also started taking acting classes specifically to know how to talk to actors and communicate what you wanted, communicate your vision as a writer, director, that sort of thing. And then so were you bitten by the acting bug and you were like, I want to do both now?
Well, it started happening in 7th grade. I took drama class, and the teacher just kind of pointed at me and said, go in front of the stage and do this.
Okay.
And I just did it.
Okay.
And everybody was looking at me like, she kind of pointed to a lot of other people. Everybody was super scared. And I was always very fearless.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to do it.
I was gonna say you
Yeah.
seem that way. You seem like put me in, coach. Like even if I fail, I'll try it.
I'm gonna do
whatever.
it.
My motto is I'll try anything twice.
Yeah.
Just because you don't know.
You don't know. And it happened, and I just did this thing, this monologue. I'd never done one before. I looked in front of the audience, and everybody was enamored. And I loved that feeling because I've always wanted to inspire people. That's my goal in filmmaking. I want to move, touch, and inspire people, especially people that cannot feel anything and have such a hard time feeling in life. I've always wanted my films to move people towards that direction.
Yeah.
When you watch a film, you see it, and you feel these feelings that you don't really know, you don't understand them, you feel them in real life. You can't express them because we're taught to believe like you cannot feel. And art really makes us feel.
Yeah.
So my goal has always been to create these films that make you feel something that you quite don't really understand. But at the end of the day, is passion. And it inspired you to do something with your life.
So I love that. I love that about art.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll get into this. The reason I'm so excited for this episode specifically and to speak to you is that I have no idea where this episode's going to go. Because you do so much. Because
Yeah.
you act, you write, you direct, you take meetings with investors to finance your own projects. You will work on other people's films just as a helping hand. You'll produce things. You're sort of a Jill of all trades.
Yeah.
Which I love, and I think a lot of listeners will from you, I hope, receive the permission to just do it themselves. Whether they're actors, I mean, obviously it's called the Actor's Agenda, and I think that mostly actors will listen to this, but also any creative. I mean, I would consider you and I not just actors, I would consider us creatives.
Absolutely.
Because we write, we direct, we finance, raise the money to tell our own stories, and we take meetings with producers, and we sort of have to do everything to tell our stories. So I would say first and foremost, we're storytellers.
Definitely.
Storytellers, and that's why I'm excited to speak with you today. So okay, I know you, and I think that you're amazing. For anybody that doesn't,
I think you're fantastic.
Thank you.
This is our first official working together.
It is.
It's like from day one when I met you, I was like, I want to work with this guy. Now we're here.
And now we're here.
And
hopefully this is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
Many.
And I'm excited.
All right, you get caffeinated. I'm going to tell listeners about who you are. So Leslie Lluvet is a television, voiceover, and film actress born in Havana, Cuba, raised in Miami, Florida. You moved to Los Angeles after writing the story about your family's journey through the Caribbean to the U.S., searching for freedom, and that was called 90 Miles. 90 Miles, right?
Yeah.
It won a ton of awards.
We are still winning, actually, and I haven't submitted, but still getting nominated. Which it's
fantastic. I've seen it. I loved it. You were living in LA. You've worked with Jeremy Sisto, Jeremy Weber. You worked with directors including Anthony Fuqua, Rodrigo Garcia, Dan Ireland, Martin Donovan. You're in the middle of pitching that story, the feature film, based on your short film 90 Miles, right? Which I read and I thought was fantastic. You did a guest spot on Station 19 on ABC. You've worked on the production side of Den of Thieves with Gerard Butler. You directed an independent series called This Is Life. And I could just go on.
There's a lot of
I don't
things,
want. But this
is the
I want to get into.
the beginning.
I want to get into it, right? I want to get into. So, you moved here. You went to film school. Did you think after film school, and when I say here, Los Angeles, California, after film school, were you going to go back to Florida? Were you going to go to New York?
The idea was that I'd go back to Florida just because I have such a close family. I'm the only child. My mom and dad had me at such a young age. They're in their 50s. They're like 53, 54. They're really young.
Wow.
And we have a really close relationship. So I never thought I'd be away from my family. But that was kind of the drive that kept me here. Because I wanted to prove to them, first of all, I want to tell their story so I can give back to them what they've given me, which is freedom. They gave me the gift of life and they gave me the gift of freedom. So I really took it to myself that I had to just tell their story. And it's not just their story. It's a lot of other people's stories. It's not just the Cuban culture. It's Central America, South America, even what's happening right now.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it's just a lot of things.
It could not be more timely right now with the people migrating to the U.S. in search for safety, for work, to escape whatever's going on in their own countries.
Yeah.
And I feel like you touched on it earlier. I think that's a wonderful thing about art is that art not only connects us to each other and allows us to see other people, other characters going through what we're going through, so it makes us feel less alone. But it also opens us up to new ideas and new ways of thinking in ways that we don't even realize we need sometimes. Like I had my friend Leah McKendrick on the show, and she talked about her movie Scrambled, and she wrote it, she directed it, she starred in it, and it was about her as a woman freezing her eggs, a woman in her 30s, because biologically women, as they get older, they have a ticking clock in terms of when it is safe to have children. And I went into that movie not really knowing much about it. And I walked out, I mean, not being an expert by any means, but at least knowing what women go through to a certain extent of a certain age when they're not sure if they want to have kids or when they're trying to have kids. And I was like, wow. And since then, it just so happens that in my friend group, 3 different women have brought that up just randomly in conversation of like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. And I'm like, oh, well, you should go see this movie Scrambled because it'll help you and this and that. And I feel like that's with your film. I feel like if people are curious as to what's happening right now and curious about the struggle of people wanting to come to the U.S. and other places to have more freedom and to have a better life, I feel like they should watch 90 Miles because it it really steps into the emotional familial side of all that, and who can't relate to that, who can't relate to whatever your family looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it's mostly a story about freedom. Unfortunately, it gets kind of like put in a category of politics, which I feel it's a very tricky conversation to have, just because, it's like two things you don't really talk about, politics and religion.
Yeah.
But the movie really is not about politics. The movie is about freedom and
freedom.
survival. It's so I could not have shied away more from the political aspect of it. That just happens to be a subplot because it's what's happening. And I feel like I definitely owe my people a voice. And that, besides taking the responsibility of I have to tell my parents' story, I also have to tell the story of my people and everything they're going through right now. Especially recently, there has been a lot of riots in the streets because there's no food. There is no food. There's no food. There's no hospitals that will take anybody that has any kind of sickness. During the pandemic, there was dead bodies in
You're talking about in Cuba
right now,
Yeah.
and there's like dead bodies on the floor. It smells like death. In the United States, we talk about Cuba has the best health care because it's free, but there is no health care for the people. There is nothing.
Wow.
And I have a friend of mine, because I left when I was little. I was 4 years old. My friend left when she was 12, 13, I think maybe 14. She said we were starving. This was like maybe 20 years ago. As she specifically said, I was starving all the time. So the fact that people in the world today have to just think about what they're going to eat the next day, it makes me feel a sense of urgency and responsibility to tell something like this, to show it in an art form where it's non-biased. It's like, this is a movie about what's really happening today.
Because you're not coming here claiming to have the solution to end the border crisis or hey, Mr. Politician, Miss Politician, this is what you should be doing. You're saying, I just want people to be aware
Of what's happening.
the freedom element and the family element of what these people are going through.
Exactly.
Because the first step is caring.
Exactly.
Right? If enough people care, we will find a solution. But the first step is you have to be aware of it, what's happening, and you have to care.
Exactly.
So is what's happening right now in the world, is that sort of helping? Because I would imagine that you're not the only one that I know that has created a short film and is now trying to make the feature film. So you're trying to make 90 Miles, the feature film, which is basically an expanded version of your award-winning short.
Right.
What is that? What has that journey been like?
Well, it's a huge journey because I have directed a feature. I've produced a feature last year. I've done my own show. I basically call my people, pick up a camera, and just do it. And then I have access to where I'm going to put it. That's just what I do. It's literally what I do on top of the other aspect of acting, which is acting is my passion. Directing and acting, I would have to say they go hand in hand. And that's where it's at for me. Okay. And then writing is like number 3 because I like to tell my own stories with my friends and that's what I like to do. But 90 Miles is such a bigger picture. It's such a big thing to accomplish. It's been not hard. It's just been challenging. Because I don't like to use the word hard. It's not hard. It's a challenge. And I like challenges. Challenges make me feel some kind of way. But it's also a book. It's a limited series. It's a restaurant. It's a conglomerate of things. It's not just a feature film. So essentially what I'm really asking the universe for is not just a feature film. It's bigger than what that really looks like. So it's been very challenging, but it's been putting me in rooms with people that have been giving me opportunities for other things.
Oh, great. So this project, it's like work begets work.
Absolutely.
This project is increasing your exposure, and then you're getting opportunities in areas where you didn't even know that you wanted.
Exactly. So when I started acting, which Martin Donovan was my mentor, is my mentor. I love him dearly. And Martin Donovan is like an old Hollywood director. So he has such a mentality of how Hollywood used to operate in the olden days. And I really appreciated that. And he's the one that got me to act. It was him. He's always talking about the truth. You have to tell the truth, especially when you act, especially when you direct, especially when you write. It was this thing in him that it was about the truth, and it's always in your eyes.
Yeah.
And he loves
That's why you wanted to
about
wear
my
you wanted to wear
eyes.
sunglasses, and I was like, you can't do it.
I
dude.
love that. Thank you for telling me that. Because sometimes I get into this idea of like, I have to promote these brands that I
Yeah.
work with. But then I'm like, you know what? You're right. So he kind of really inspired me with the acting thing. And that's how it all kind of like started. And that's when I decided like, I have to do this and I'm going to make it happen. So back to the question, I kind of forgot what you asked
No,
me.
I said, so it's interesting because you, in sort of staying on course with creating your feature film, you've been taking meetings, you've been hustling, trying to make that happen.
Right.
And then it's creating opportunities in areas that you didn't even know
Right.
about.
So what happened was I wrote 90 Miles in college and I couldn't write it and I got stuck and I met during doing a play my co-writer. I did a play with my co-writer who was directing and it was an LGBTQ play and it was really hard. I had a rough time. He really, really challenged me. And that's how I met him. So that's how we started 90 Miles. I went into a lot of meetings and I just decided, I was thinking feature and I was like, I just need to get something out there. So I did a short version of the feature and I co-directed the film because I was acting in it. And when I act, usually I get a co-director because it's just like I really have to focus on both ends. Somehow I also end up being a producer and it's a lot. So I decided, let's do the short film. We shot on film, which is absolutely rare.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
What year was this?
This was like 2 years ago.
Wow. Why would you do that to yourself?
Because it was beautiful.
Okay,
And
okay.
everyone that watches the film is like, this looks so different because we shot on film.
You shot on film.
And that's kind of been my goal from now on, to shoot on film.
okay.
I want to shoot this other feature on film. I just like people to watch my stuff and think this is different. This is real. Like, I want to move people's minds. So that's why we did that. Also, my DP was like, we need to shoot on film. And then I agreed. But when that came out, I mean, I literally got an opportunity to direct a feature. A lot of things happened there, which I can't disclose, but it's fine. I still had the opportunity. I directed a pilot that was packaged by CAA.
Great.
I produced another feature. I acted in a lot of other things. And it all came from 90 Miles.
Wow. I love that.
That's
I
what
love
happened.
That. I love that because I think so many of us that want to maintain control of our careers, we almost strangle our opportunities.
That's how
we're
you-
like, I have to do this, I have to do this, this is the path, this is how it worked for somebody else, I need to do this. And we fail to sometimes just take a deep breath and just go with whatever the universe is, wherever the universe is trying to send us.
Exactly.
And to your point, I mean, you directed a pilot and you did another film and you got acting roles, and that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right? To have all these different opportunities. So I love that you just kind of released the reins and just went with it.
Yeah. And I did it all while it was the pandemic.
Okay, wow.
And then
So
it was
this
post-pandemic. And then it was also during the strike.
during the strike. Yeah.
So literally when nobody was working, but it was like about 2 years of no one working. And I was working because I made it happen. I created that. And it all started with 90 Miles. 90 Miles has given me so many opportunities. And I always had this mentality of like, oh, short films. And it was something I did in college. But if that's the opportunity that you have right now, take it. If it's a short film that you have to do it. Eventually the features will come knocking at your door.
Yeah.
Eventually the pilots will come knocking at your door.
I always say for short films, it's either to get yourself out there as a director, get yourself out there as an actor, build relationships to go to film festivals and travel around and sort of network, or a proof of concept for something else.
Exactly.
A pilot, a feature, a TV series.
And it all worked out to be all of those things. It was a proof of
yours
concept.
yours is everything.
It was
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And I think that that's probably one of the things I always work with in my life is that I don't limit myself. I don't have limitations. The way that I think is after I saw the product of what happened, I decided like no more limitations. You have to think bigger. You have to think it's like delusional thinking to other people. It kind of becomes that way.
Yeah.
But it's okay. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm actually onto something.
You know what? You're crazy. People, what's the quote? People will call you crazy until you do it. And then they'll say, oh, I always knew. I always knew. I always knew you would do this. But you're crazy until you actually make it.
Yeah.
And then the conversation switches.
Exactly.
Right. For this podcast, I was a little nervous, and it's presented different challenges for me, but it's also kind of what you're talking about. I'm getting to talk to people. I'm getting to know people like you more, like people that I know already and I respect in the industry doing things, but we dive into the how and we dive into the details of the journey, and I'm learning, and this is fun for me. And I remember I've only been doing this for a short time, and I remember first couple episodes I was nervous, and I was like, what am I going to talk about? I can't even fill a full hour with these people. What am I going to say? But I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much. I'm running out of time every single time.
I know, yeah.
Because there's so much to talk about, and I also am proud that I think that I've discovered and kept and gathered a group in Los Angeles, a tribe in Los Angeles of people that are just doing shit.
And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's like a synergy, right? It's like I just did a film, which I had a meeting with the director like 5 months ago about a film that I wrote and I was going to direct. She was going to produce it. I got this audition and I read the script, and it was an LGBTQ film, and I have not actually done one of those. And I've been wanting to. I did a pilot that was for Showtime, didn't get picked up, and I was playing gay, and it was the first gay role I ever played, which I was dying to do, but I never get those opportunities. So finally, I read the script. I was like, okay, she's gay. I love this. I found out it was like of my friend that I had met. I ended up getting the role, which was beautiful. She called me. She's like, oh my God, I didn't know that you were interested. I was like, I am super interested. But the point of the conversation is that I ended up meeting some fantastic people in that crew. And it was just this energy, this synergy, this beautiful thing that I have just been looking for. People to create films with, a community where it's family, friends. It's just like we're going to stick to each other for life. And if you really go back and track to old Hollywood, Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, Spielberg, they use the exact same people that they've been working with since they were in film school.
Well, and even Spielberg and George Lucas. I mean, the reason that Spielberg did Indiana Jones is because he was just coming off of what film was not a hit, and George Lucas approached him and said, I want you to do Indiana Jones. I think you're going to love it. And he sort of encouraged him. And then it became one of Spielberg's golden children, franchises that he's had and led the way to so many other things. You talk about Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire.
Right.
Auditioning with each other, growing up, being best friends, sleeping on each other's couches before auditions or when on set and stuff. And they still act together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you kind of need, I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning, I was one of those people. I moved to LA and I was like, I'm going to make it. I don't know anybody, but I don't care, blah, blah, blah. And I started, little by little, I started working with people and meeting people and the people that I genuinely like and care about that are also kicking ass with whatever their avenue is.
Exactly.
And I've been able to gather them over the years, and it sounds like you're doing the same thing, and that makes all the difference.
It
because
makes all the difference.
I think also psychologically, it takes the pressure off of us as on the acting side to know that you don't just have to sit by the phone and wait for permission to be a part of somebody else's world. You can go and grab some friends and grab a camera and write a script and make your own world and have something to do and have something to put out and have something to show the world and scratch that creative itch, even if somebody else isn't going to give you that invitation.
Exactly.
And how many success stories have we seen? So Issa Rae, perfect example. She had her own YouTube show, and now she's a phenomenal actress. I mean, she's a creator. She was always a great actress. Now she has these opportunities that are befitting of her talent.
Exactly.
But she never would have gotten those opportunities if she didn't have Awkward Black Girl, the YouTube series. And so it's just like
You have to have that.
Example.
You have to have that kind of energy to put yourself in a position to create your own opportunities. Now I feel like we have the most opportunities that we even had back in the day, because now you have social media.
And
And you
so
can put yourself out there in
put
any
yourself out there,
platform.
which I think is a blessing and a curse. I have a love-hate relationship
It's
with
definitely
social
a
media.
curse for relationships, I would say, because
Okay.
it's gotten me into a lot of trouble.
Okay.
But I feel like now using it as an avenue for a creator is different.
So how I can't not go there.
No, you
how
can
has
go
it
there.
gotten
It's
you?
fine. You
how's,
can go
how's
there.
dating? How's the dating life in LA
Well,
been for you?
so that's part of the problem with where I could have been way more ahead in my career. And when I went to college, I got into a very heavy, deep relationship with a designer. She was a designer, and we got engaged. We were together for 5.5 years. It didn't work out. I was, not that great. It's just we didn't bounce off each other. But because I was so into this relationship, I didn't really navigate my life the way I'm navigating it now, where I'm moving really fast right now. I have a lot of things going on. I'm consistently working, writing, creating. I'm like nonstop. Back then, I was so enamored and I was so naive and so young that I wasn't moving very quickly. It was mostly auditions and waiting for the opportunities to come to me. I didn't have the same mindset because I didn't know. I didn't know the power that I really had knowing how to create films. I was just like, I'm just going to wait till someone hires me to make a movie instead of making it happen. So that relationship taught me that I need to kind of relax. And if I'm going to be in love, it has to be with somebody that is in the industry and understands the dynamic that I have in the industry, which led me to my second relationship, which lasted 6 years with my best friend. That was rough because we were friends for 3 years. We ended up in Vancouver together. I was shooting a show. She was shooting a film. And we were like really good friends. And somehow, somewhere along those lines, it crossed into this relationship where we both felt like we were going to create together. And it was going to be really amazing. And it was like, if we're going to take a gamble on maybe throwing away our friendship.
Two artists coming together, creating
it's kind of what
together.
happened. And then the pandemic happened.
Okay.
And then the strike happened. So
Okay.
it was like we went through like really intense bangs back to back.
Because I hear this, I hear when artists get together, when two creative people get together, it's either amazing, the synergy's amazing. It's like, let's be on set together, let's work, let's write together, let's do this. It's synergistic, or it starts that way and evolves into competition, and people in those relationships can't help but start comparing themselves to each other. I got this audition, I got this job,
Yeah.
I got this. Was that the case a little bit?
It kind of happened. I would say it definitely happened without intention. And it just, I would say that might have happened a little bit for sure. And I think it's just that we just had such an intense relationship because we had so much to give, so much energy. But we were best friends, and it was all of that. So back to how dating life in LA is after we broke up.
Moral of the story, actors don't date other actors.
I decided
it could be great.
Well, I decided that I really just needed to be single.
Yeah.
And now that's where I'm at. So there is no dating.
You're dating your career for now.
I'm dating my career,
that's fine.
and I'm in love with not just dating my career, but I think I'm in a point in my life where it's been like 12 years. This is the first time that I'm actually single and I'm actually by myself. I don't have anybody.
Yeah.
I'm as single as can be. No one to text, no one to tell me, hey, I want to come watch a movie with you. So I am really forced to sit down and focus. And I think it's probably the most beautiful journey that I'm on right now, to be in love with myself. Learning how to fall in love with myself is something I have never done before. And I didn't realize I had never done it before. So not only am I falling in love with Leslie, I'm also falling in love again with my career. And it's so beautiful.
That's also helping you as a writer, as a storyteller, to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, and this is the voice that I have.
Exactly.
And this is my point of view that I want to bring to these projects, to these characters, to these... Because you have to... as actors, I think we have to know ourselves through and through, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Exactly.
Because that's humanity.
Yeah.
And the more that we know ourselves, and the more that we know what makes us tick, what makes us laugh, what makes us cry, what makes us happy, whatever else, that we can bring those in truthful ways to these characters.
Exactly.
And not be afraid of those
Right.
sometimes ugly parts and
Yeah.
messy parts, because those are the interesting acting choices that we make, and those are the interesting roles that build careers.
Exactly.
I think.
And you shouldn't be scared to bring that out in your acting or directing or writing. And that's kind of what's been happening with
No,
me.
but sometimes people get comfortable, and maybe just within their own lives, maybe in relationships, that they don't, they sort of forget the messier parts of themselves.
We have those parts, and the thing about it is that you can't really hide them. It's you cannot be perfect. We live in a world where perfection doesn't exist. It does not exist. This world is not static. There's always movement. And
Yeah.
perfection would be kind of categorized as a static movement. So how can you can have perfect moments that you cannot forget that are perfect. But
Perfect
can you,
moments, but not perfect.
Can you live
everything.
there?
Yeah.
Perfect eternity?
What's-
It's absolutely unrealistic.
What's the saying? It's perfect is the enemy of great.
Yeah.
And I think that across the board, that applies to our lives, but that also applies to projects. I know so many writers that have been working on scripts for years and
Oh,
years,
yeah,
and
no.
they're like, "I'm just trying to get it perfect. I'm just trying to get it
doesn't-
perfect,"
no.
and it's going to it's going to sit on a shelf forever.
Exactly.
Because they're trying to get it perfect rather than making a great script
Mm-hmm.
and actually sending it out into the world and seeing it.
It's not
made
going to
into
be
a movie.
perfect. The only thing you can do is make it to your liking and hope that your expression gets out there and you touch some people and you might not touch others, but you have to think about it in this way. Even if you touch others in a different way, they might say something negative about it. You're still touching them. You're still touching
you
them.
can't please everybody.
You're still creating an effect.
The higher you climb, the more people see you, the more people have an opinion, and it's just like you have to let that stuff just wash off your shoulders, because otherwise we drive ourselves crazy. I remember this is one of the reasons I have a love-hate relationship with social media, is because I used to care about comments, especially when I was doing Disney stuff, when I was doing like Cloud9, and I did like Crash and Bernstein, and people were like commenting like on my Australian accent, and then on Cloud9 they're commenting on all of our snowboarding and all, and it's just like,
Oh, wow.
it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm not gonna be thinking about the comments. I'm gonna be thinking about the experience I had, the friendships I made, the stories I told, and that's what I'm gonna take with me. And I feel like that's been a learning experience.
Yeah.
So for you, I mean, doing 1,000,001 things, what does a day in your life look like?
Well, so last week I was on set doing the film Natural Selection, and I woke up at 6 a.m. I went to the middle of nowhere. I got decked out in like gear from the future. And
Is that what you're wearing today? Is that gear from the future?
I always dress like I'm from the future. Some people look at me and they're like, why do you always look like you're in the Matrix? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just my style.
Listen. You're like, I love myself, and this is how I want to dress.
This is my vibe, and it's creating an influence. It's fine because I have a lot of friends that are always asking me to dress them, and it's cool. But I basically woke up at 6 a.m., went to set, did a lot of scenes hiking in the middle of nowhere for like 13 hours, and it was beautiful. I loved it. I got home exhausted. I lost 3 pounds. And I created some of the greatest friendships that I'll never forget. And it turned into this moving cycle to then this weekend shooting This Is Life. Wednesday.
That was this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last week was when I shot. It was like 4 days. We have pickup day next week. And then I did a whole entire full day of writing a feature film that I want to do called All the Honey in the World. Okay. It's a passion project. And, then I have a bunch of auditions. Then I have to work out. It's a lot. I also own 2 properties, so I have to handle my properties in Lake Arrowhead, handle my property here in the Valley. So besides just being an artist, I'm also an entrepreneur, and eventually the goal is to fund my own projects. That's always been the end goal. The end goal is to get to a level of funding my own project, becoming an executive producer.
Do people use the phrase artistpreneur? Can I make you an artistpreneur?
Artistpreneur.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just thought about that when I was hearing you say, like, I'm not just an artist, I'm an entrepreneur. And I feel like that's that's being embraced more and more these days.
You have to be
You
that
have
way.
to be. You have to have that mindset. You have to have the mindset if I am the CEO of my own company, I am the brand that I am selling. And also we have all these other, ways to make money and side hustles so that we can keep our pursuits going as artists. I feel like it used to be you had to be a bartender, you had to be a waiter or a waitress or a host or whatever. In a restaurant, and that was it. And even that was like not talked about. It was like, I just want to be seen as an actor and not somebody that's struggling and hustling. But it's like that's what separates people that make it and people that don't make it. And I think that it is now being embraced. All these side hustles. It's not looked down upon if you're like actually working, a side job, in a restaurant or whatever, or someone like you that's like managing properties and helping produce other people's projects and everything else. I think it's fine. It used to be looked down upon for actors to have production companies, and now it's.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Well, no, I would say, years ago, if you were a multi-hyphenate, like, oh, I'm an actor producer, I'm an actor this, I'm an actor that, it was like, oh, you're not getting enough work as an actor. And this is maybe,
wow.
10, 15 years ago, before Brad Pitt's Plan B and before
I didn't
Appy
know.
and Wayne, before all these other. But now, I think that it's almost strange if you are an actor with credits who doesn't have a production company.
It's weird.
Who isn't doing these
Yeah.
other collaborative things. I think it's gone the complete reverse, which I love.
Well, for me, I just would be really bored if I was just an actor.
Yeah.
Because to me, I love acting, but I can't just be an actor because innately I'm other things. In life, we are other things. But think about it. You're a friend, you're a lover, you're a creator, you're naturally other things. So if you're other things in life, why can't you be other things with work?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like just society doesn't like when people become too powerful. If you become too powerful, you're a threat. That's why I feel like...
I agree with that to some extent. I think people love to tear people down when they are unhappy in general across the board.
I agree with that too.
But I think certain people do respect a come up, a glow up.
Oh no,
People
I don't.
love-
Yeah, I don't think all of society is that way. I just do think there's a selective few that are gatekeepers at the top, especially in our industry.
Yeah, okay.
And when they see movement and they see someone, and if you don't, I don't know, they might have some kind of agenda. They might be scared that they're gonna lose their position at the top.
Or if you
They
don't look
wanna-
like them, sound like them, think like
Yeah,
them.
I feel like there are some gatekeepers at the top where, as tracking back to what you were saying, is when you have all these hyphenated, lack of a better word, you're just a conglomerate of things. It's power. That is power. I mean, you have talent. You have more talent than just one thing. And I feel like you get to this level, you have these people, they might be a little scared of you that you will overthrow them and you might take their positions or whatever. Like I said, you might have an agenda that they don't have. You might have a vision that it's a little
I think
different.
it's just human nature to maybe not trust what we don't understand. If they don't look like you, sound like you, have your same ideas.
Yeah.
I feel like people are always a little bit resistant to that and resistant to change. But I do think things are changing.
I
like
absolutely
that.
agree
like
with
the
you.
industry is sliding
I absolutely agree with you.
in the right direction.
Absolutely agree. Thank God for that, because can you imagine like still being after all these years? Think about it. Our industry has only really been alive for like 100 years, 100 and something years.
Yeah, with the emergence of talkies, like the talking pictures, and
Right.
I mean, actually, I guess it would be silent films. I think it would be theater, silent films, talkies, and then the evolution of talkies.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we haven't really been alive for that long.
As
100
artists, we as artists, the entertainment industry.
I just mean
or-
film. I just mean
okay,
film.
okay.
I mean film. So the fact that we've come so far in such a small span of time. I mean, if I think about it, it's like my entire grandfather's life. He's 80 something. So it was a little bit before him. So I think we're doing really well.
And you
we're in a
watched-
better position.
You watch Charlie Chaplin, and then you watch Avatar, and you're like,
Wow. This is crazy.
this is how far we've come in film.
And it's beautiful to be a part of, and it's beautiful to watch, and it's beautiful to also make an impact in it. And also, I think for us, our responsibility as artists is to move, touch, and inspire the younger generation.
And you know what the beautiful thing is too, is that no matter how long you've been doing this, we talked about Scorsese and Spielberg and these other legends, James Cameron, they don't know exactly what's going to happen next. Nobody knows exactly where the industry is headed. We have ideas based on technology, based on trends, based on whatever else, but I think for newer actors or people that are trying to make their way in the industry, they're like, oh, it's changing so fast, it's moving so fast, I can't keep up. It's kind of intimidating, but everybody feels that way. It's
Everybody
the Wild
feels
West.
that way. Yeah.
It's the Wild West, and that's what makes it exciting. And if you're scared and if you're nervous about making your own movie, writing your own script, doing your own thing, everybody is. Nobody knows what's going to happen next.
one
So
knows
just do it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. It's an interesting idea to think that we've come so far and we're going to continue to go so far. But I don't think it's something to be scared of. I think it's something that we have to embrace. Yeah. Because if we stay the same, there's no growth. It's stagnant.
I remember when I produced this movie called Slapface, and I produced it at the end of 2019.
That's a good title, Slapface.
Slapface.
I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
Slapface.
We shot it in upstate New York, and I, kind of like you on your film, I did everything. It was like, I'm going to raise the money. I'm going to work with the director on the script. We're going to find locations. I'm going to cast it.
Was this your first one producing, or?
It was the first time that I had produced something where I was doing everything.
Okay.
Because I had come in and I'm like, I'm going to do this documentary. I'm going to handle post-production on this. I'm going to help with casting on this. I'm going to be hands-on producing on, like, boots on the ground on set. But for this one, it was literally everything while I was acting.
Oh, wow.
And I remember there were days where I would just sit in my car and I'm thinking, like, why am I doing this? I'm exhausted. I haven't
really
slept in 3 days.
Yeah.
And everything, if this goes wrong, it's all on me. Mm-hmm. And I have my investors that are calling, asking how it's going. I have the other actors that are looking to me because I brought them onto the project, or I'm the one that signed the contracts. And I just remember thinking, why am I doing this? I'm never doing this again. And then the day that we were finished, I gave myself like a couple days, and then I wake up and I'm like, okay, what's the next film?
Exactly.
I love it. I'm addicted. I got the rush.
Mm-hmm.
And then the film came out and it did really well. We won a bunch of awards, and it's something I'm so incredibly proud of. Mm-hmm. And now, after doing that, I feel like I can do anything.
I love that. That's true. That's how I feel too every time I come out of those projects where it's so taxing and exhausting. And I think for the most part, take it out on my partners. Mm-hmm. And, it's like kind of what I realized, like, I need to be single. All the work that goes into it, and I just go to home and I'm like unleashing this energy. So I understand how you feel, because I've been there where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm going to do it. And then you finish and you see everyone's faces and they're so happy. They're so excited. And then you go through this weird like week for me of like a little bit of like a down depression-ish, because I'm like, I need to do this next week. Like, I want to go and produce again. And then that's when you make it happen. Yeah. Your necessity level goes up. You decide, I'm going to do this and I need to keep going. And also you're creating jobs for other people, which is a big deal.
Which feels good.
It feels
good when you go from waiting for somebody to bring you onto something to, hey, I'm going to give all of these, my friends and these other creatives that I respect, opportunities. Feels really, really good.
It feels amazing. And I think that that's another beautiful thing about producing and directing and writing and not just acting, is that we have the ability to create opportunities for other people.
How do you handle your time management? Because you mentioned earlier writing, and you're like, okay, I took a whole day out to write this feature that I'm doing, and then I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I know for me, like, I have to create lists, and my friends all make fun of me. I have like an old man calendar that I have. It's like I literally write my days. I handwrite everything. I also take notes in that book, because I'm a very visual learner, and so it helps me. The physicality of writing it in the calendar and the physicality of seeing it helps me keep my schedule sort of, organized in my brain. How do you stay organized, and specifically, how do you stay organized with writing and making sure you're going to make time for writing?
Well, you're probably gonna think I'm a little crazy, but it's
I already
all,
do. It's
it's
fine.
all in, yeah,
In a
it's,
good way.
Literally, it's all in my mind.
Okay.
My calendar is in my mind.
Oof, that's,
because
that gives me anxiety. I can't even.
the
think
reason
of-
why is because next week I could possibly not have anything going on. Then Monday hits, and all of a sudden I have 3 auditions. My writing partner finished a script. I book something. I have a commercial in-person audition. My mom calls me. I need to go fly and be with her. It's just, I have to go fix something at the lake house, or I'm getting ready to I want to buy another property. So there's certain things I'm doing right now for that. So just, it's a randomity kind of lifestyle because of the way my life is. I do want to get way more organized. Just the opportunities that are coming are very like, they just kind of happen. And I'm an Aquarius. I'm going to blame it on that.
Okay,
So I'm just very like, okay, life is very like, it's just great.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm an Aries, and so I'm like, what somebody told me once, and I go back and forth. I think the moon has, our bodies are mostly water, and so I think the moon and stars and everything have something to do with how our bodies feel maybe sometimes, because we're all the water.
I like to believe.
I don't know if like I'm this way because I was born on this day, but I feel like maybe there's something to it. People have told me, because I'm an Aries, people have told me that I burn bright. I'm a fire sign. I burn bright. I get really enthusiastic. I'm good at leading a team. I'm good at gathering everybody, but I burn out quickly if I don't have others around me sort of feeding me, like grounding me like an earth sign, or like feeding me like an air sign.
Yeah.
So I burn bright, but I burn quickly. And ever since somebody told me that, I was like, wow, that's
an interesting
Could it be
thing.
more accurate?
I know. For me, it's like, I'm very detached, and I was like, I give all my energy. And then at the end of the day, it's like, I want to be alone.
What's an Aquarius? Is that
It's a water. It's
sign?
an air. It's
Oh, it's
an
an
air
air
sign.
sign.
But we're the
Okay.
water barriers.
Okay.
I'm not like die hard on it.
No,
But
no,
I
it's fine.
kind of
I'm
like
just-
to believe
I'm
that.
curious.
I like to believe that it might be a little true. That it's kind of the rarest sign in the zodiac. There's not a lot of us out there.
Okay.
And apparently we're very like detached and very like unemotionally unavailable, which I don't believe. Like, my love has to be completely reframed to myself.
But I also think it's healthy to learn to love ourselves before we decide to give ourselves to other people. I know that before my relationship, I had to take some time, kind of like you. I was a serial dater since I can remember.
Yeah.
And before my relationship, before I got married, I had to be like, I need to be single because I need to work on me.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a process of like, I'm going to go to a therapist. I'm going to talk about some things I've been feeling. Like, I really need to work on me because I don't want to mess this up again.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's where I'm at. I'm in a
and
healing stage.
You're in that stage.
Yeah.
You're in that stage.
I want to get married. That's the goal. I want to get married. I want to have kids. That's my ultimate happiness.
Yeah.
Not just the career.
Kids terrify the shit out of me.
I want to have. I want to have a big family.
Okay.
I just have to find the partner that's going to agree to do that with me and be on the same page. I want to be with an artist.
It'll happen. And until then, you're just.
I've had opportunities. It's just work is love, right? Work is my fiance right now.
There you go. You're engaged to work.
I'm engaged to work.
My movies. I think of my movies as my kids.
That's a good idea.
I'm gonna put them out into the world, and that's gonna be something that people remember me by. I don't know if I'm gonna have kids. I just recently sort of reconciled that in my mind, because I've always been somebody that wanted kids, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if and I have beautiful nieces and nephews, so
Yeah.
I'm scratching that itch in that way. I'm gonna be the uncle
That's
that they
cute.
love.
You have that. You have kids in your life. I don't have. I'm an only child, so for me, it's like I have to have the kids.
So the pressure's on.
The
Okay.
pressure's on, but it's not that it's pressure. It's that I do want it. I just have to. I mean, my last relationship, I thought we were going to get married and have kids, and we talked about it, and it didn't work out. So life kind of threw me at a completely other direction. So I just realized, like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen when you're ready. You were just not ready. You weren't there yet.
But
So-
you're an Aquarius. You're gonna go with the flow.
I am going to go
until
with
you
the
are
flow.
ready.
I am going to go with the flow. Somebody's going to slap me in the face,
There
and
you
that's
go.
how it's going to happen.
Oh, was that your love language? Getting slapped in the face?
My love language is touch.
Okay.
That's how I love. I love to touch and be really like lovey-dovey in public areas.
Yeah.
It's like it was
Yeah,
a thing in
same.
my last relationship. I would be like making out and being like, and then she'd be like, "What the fuck? Like, why are you doing this right
Yeah,
now?"
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like that person. When I'm like really in love, I'm just like enamored with my partner.
Yeah.
Like
I get that. I get that.
super
You love
enamored.
hard.
I love
hard.
hardcore.
Love hardcore.
Hardcore. Like
Because you're from the future and you know.
I'm from the
You know what's
future.
going to happen. So you're like, don't take this for granted. I'm going to love hardcore.
Exactly. And it's also like you never know when you're just going to not be here. So I want to make it count.
Fair.
I'd like to think I live my days like it's my last day.
Yeah, damn.
You know?
That's deep. Okay. I like to do this with everybody. If you could look back and tell young Leslie that is starting in maybe not necessarily even young, but Leslie that is starting out in this industry, give her one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, the first thing I would say is fall in love with yourself first.
Okay.
And after you fall in love with yourself first, put that love into your biggest passion. And after you put that love in your biggest passion, find the same person that wants to create that passion with you. That's how I would do everything.
That passion being, in this case, entertainment.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, little Leslie, if you are listening or watching, find that, love yourself first, and then once you check that box, move over and put all that love and passion into your career. And then once you check that box, you put all that love and passion into being open, not that you need anybody else, but being open to finding love in somebody else.
Exactly. That has the same passion.
Yeah, that has the same passion.
Yeah,
And
because
we'll
I did
support
it
you.
backwards.
Okay.
You know, I did like 3, 2, 1.
Yeah,
It should have been like 1, 2, 3.
and 3.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of The Actors Agenda. This week, the special guest was Leslie Lluvet.
Yes, Lluvet.
I said that?
Yeah,
Lluvet.
you said it perfect.
If people are curious to follow you on socials, where are you?
Leslie Lluvet, Instagram, TikTok. For the most part, that's it. Yeah, I mean, listen, if anybody has anything that they really want to know, and I'd like to always give my piece of advice, they can reach out to me on Instagram. I love doing that. I think that's something I want to do in the future is take on the younger generation and give them advice, but it's not like in a criticism kind of way. Just like, this is what I didn't do. This is what I wish I would have done. And try it out. See what happens. So reach out to me. I will communicate with you.
All right. She's opening the door to be reached out to.
I'm opening the door.
On socials. Until next time, make it a great day.
It's the